Next, from Springfield, State Treasurer Alexi Giannoulias announces his candidacy for the Democratic nomination for the United States Senate. Following his announcement address, he takes questions from reporters. The two events run about 25 minutes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Moody. I'm the Sangamon County Chairman. I would like to thank all of you for being here today. In his race for State Treasurer in 2006, Alexi Giannoulias was not the political choice of the political powerhouse that ran this state. He was an outsider from the private sector, independent, someone who believed in public service and that trumps politics as usual. Alexi stood for the notion that government doesn't have to be corrupt, insulated, and unresponsive to the people it serves. Instead, Alexi, he believes that government should work. It works best when it works to give people an opportunity to achieve their dreams. To insiders, this made him appear naive at best. At worst, it was a threat to their power. But never stopped Alexi from standing up for what was right. He beat the odds. He ended the pay-to-play politics at the state treasurer's office. He helped save good-paying jobs in Illinois. In the state Senate, Alexi Giannoulias will restore economic opportunity for every American by breaking the stranglehold of the special interest in Washington. But the Washington insiders, they have a different idea. They're busy marshaling the forces of corporate special interests and their well-connected lobbyists to stand behind a candidate who has voted time and time again for the failed policies that has put us in the worst economic mess since the Great Depression. We won't let them take America backwards, and we will absolutely not let them take the Senate seat won by Illinois' favorite son, Barack Obama. Please join me in welcoming someone who will stand with President Obama and move America forward. The next senator from the great state of Illinois, Alexi Giannoulias.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It is so great to see so many friends, so many supporters, so many great Illinoisans who have been with me from day one. I want to thank you all for being here today on what is a very special day for me, made possible by my greatest inspiration, my parents. Over 40 years ago, my mother and father fled a war-torn village in Greece and traveled to America's shores. It's the same trek made by millions of others before them. When they arrived, they had nothing. They had no money. They didn't speak the language. They had no education. But they had one thing that sustained them: their belief in the fundamental ideal that America is more than a place. It's a promise. A promise that if you are willing to work hard and sacrifice, that anything is possible. And work hard they did, as so many others have. My father started out selling pickles. My mom sold sewing machines at Sears. And together, they raised 3 boys. They started a small business, a community bank that has helped thousands of others fulfill the promise of America. Their story is a testament not only to their hard work and determination, but to the power of that promise. That it doesn't matter where you live, whether you are rich or poor, young or old, black, white, or brown. Whether your story begins in a small Greek village, a Williamson County farmer on the streets of Chicago, we all share a belief in the promise of America. And that's a promise worth fighting for. But tragically, this promise is under assault. We are facing the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The home foreclosed upon every 8 seconds. Unemployment hovering at 10%, the highest in a generation. Millions of families can't afford basic health care. Skyrocketing costs of college. Family businesses around for generations suddenly closing their doors. But statistics don't do justice to what is an all too personal tragedy. In traveling this great state, I have seen Illinoisans struggling as the promise of America seems to be slipping away. We have all seen it. We all know it. People are hurting in a very real way every day. The farmer outside Quincy, who fears rising costs will force his children off the family farm. The young student, desperate to lift herself out of the drugs and violence of her Englewood neighborhood, unable to secure loans for school. The Moline tool and die maker with 3 kids at home, scared that her manufacturing job will be shipped overseas like millions of others, and that she'll lose her home and not be able to provide for her children. These are the casualties of Wall Street's reckless economic choices. These are the victims of Washington politics as usual. Over the last decade, those who controlled Washington systematically undermined the economic engine of the American middle class. They gave tax breaks to corporations that ship our jobs overseas, but refused to fight China's unfair trade practices. They gave massive bailouts to the biggest banks in the country, but refused to raise the minimum wage. They supported George W. Bush's tax cuts for the wealthiest 1%, but then opposed President Obama's middle-class tax cuts. They passed laws that made risky loans and reckless self-destructive borrowing a way of life, and then refused to help families avoid foreclosure. Those in power could only have supported what has been so destructive to our economy for one of 2 reasons. They either gave in to the special interests that fanned their campaign accounts with millions of PAC dollars, or they actually believed in these failed trickle-down policies. You don't have to look hard to find this greed and bad judgment here in Illinois. Just this week, we heard a Republican candidate for this very office pledge reform with one hand while taking millions of dollars from corporate interests and voting their way with the other. That's not independence. That's the same old Washington way. That's the same tired politics that voters rejected in 2008, and that's the same tired politics that we will defeat in 2010. A few years ago, Barack Obama inspired me to run for public office with the simple belief that it's possible for good people to build a state and a nation where everyone, not just the privileged few, have a very real chance to succeed. With this audacious spirit in mind, we embraced a new way of doing things, and we won.